how do you get the funding for the house in the first place? So if you've got a decent salary, you may or may not be a homeowner already, you've got something pretty solid to yourself in terms of your abilities, raising finance is a fantastic route. It's what I did. I borrowed £600,000. It took me 14 weeks to raise it, to get it into my bank. And from that, I bought a £1.8 million portfolio and then jumped out my day job because, like many of us, I didn't want to spend the rest of my life in corporate life getting, my kind of lifeblood sucked away and being imprisoned in an office. I mean, what life is that, in my opinion? So really what people do is they look at the private finance arena and they look at raising private finance, running a fundraising campaign, being personable but a little bit professional, and raising the money to buy the properties. They buy them discounted or wholesale, and they refinance the money and pay the investors back out, and then poof, they've jumped out of the fishbowl. They're no longer stuck in the salaried job, which is providing a basis but cannot be the rest of your life, surely. And raising finance is a real route to escaping that. Well, first off, you set your target. What is your finance target? So how many houses do you want to buy? How much money have you got at the moment? How much are those houses going to cost? What's the refurb on average going to be? And if you're using any kind of funding, what's your gap? And then do you have all the money? And almost inevitably the answer is no. Damn. Okay, so that gap is the private finance gap. And that is the fundraising target. Now, I know from all the maths I've done, from all of my work or mentoring and looking after hundreds of other people, that on average, an investor will loan you 50 grand. So if you want to borrow 100 grand, it's 2 investors. If you want to borrow 500,000, it's 10 investors on average. So it becomes a very personal campaign, and actually I want people to run it professionally. I want them to have the right legal documentation, the right brochures, the right marketing collateral, their bio, their business plan. I then want them to understand the process, and the process is you meet people, you ask 3 screening questions, which I talk about in my pack. You meet people between 5 and 9 touch points because they're not going to trust you straight away. They want to figure out that you're pretty solid. And the first question is, how much do I get? And the second question is, how safe is my money? So those 5 to 9 touch points are about building trust, identifying that this person is a reasonably competent person to deliver good property projects, to keep my money safe, and then to give me money as a reward, if you like, for investing. So it's about identifying how much money you want, how that breaks down, divide it by 50 grand, that's how many people. Know your ratios. I know for every 20 people I meet, 1 person will invest, and know how long it will take, and know how many touch points I need per person. And then I know what people are like, because life's too short. A good question. How do you work out who's a viable investor and who's not? Definitely. Well, I've got 3 very clear questions for them. So you're going to meet a lot of people. You obviously know a lot of people already. You've got friends, family, business colleagues, work colleagues, people that you might think, oh, they've got some money. And then if you're going to get serious in property, you're almost certainly going to go to some property events as well. And anyone who's got money at those events is not really going to go, hi, it's me. I got £250,000 or I got 6 million in my bank account. Come and see me. They're just not. So there's 3 screening questions. And for me, when I was fundraising, I was really going for it. I was really clear. I needed 600 grand, which I raised, by the way, in 14 weeks. I need 600 grand to buy a portfolio to allow me to jump out my day job to then go into property full time, in order that portfolio was safe enough. You see what I mean? So, and I was looking after 2 kids, and I had a full-time day job. So I didn't have a lot of time. So I needed to be quite efficient with my time. So I would go to meetings and I had 3 very clear questions. The first is, what's your objective? Now, I could ask a robot, what's your objective? And they go, my objective is to make this return on capital. But human beings don't behave that way. They're like, I want to go on holiday next year. I want to send the kids to college or university. I want to do something for my grandchildren. I want to put my kids through fee-paying school, or I want to buy myself a nice car. They've got emotional objectives usually, as well as long-term security objectives. So you need to go, well, how much does that nice car cost? you know, and how much is your pot? So my second question. So first is you work out how much does it cost? How much does it cost to send your kids to college or university or fee-paying school, or, you know, what's the holiday that you want next year? Whatever it is, how much does it cost? And I explore around that objective, so I've understood what the objective is. You know, what's driving you? Why would you want to invest with someone in order to buy this thing or do this thing that is in your heart? Secondly is, okay, great, you want to achieve that. When do you want to achieve it by? So what's your time frame? Because if you want to buy the thing tomorrow, the chances are, well, no, I know, I can't do any joint ventures, buy and sell with you in enough time. Or if you want to lend me money, but you need to buy the thing tomorrow, you haven't earned enough interest from me. The time frame's not adequate enough. So I need to understand that they've got a strong enough time frame that allows me to do my property work, turn the project round, and basically give them back their money with interest or with profit, depending on how we've done it. And then the third thing is, what is the pot that you've got right now to try and make enough money to hit your objective? So it's obvious, isn't it, now when you say it? So what's your objective? What do you want to achieve? When do you want to achieve it by? So how long have we got to make this thing happen? And then what's the pot you've got to get started with to make the money that you want for the thing that's terribly important for you, whether it's an experience or a thing. So by that, really, if you think about it, I'm working out interest rate that they need. So let's just say they've got 100 grand, or they've got 100 grand they want to invest. I would never take all of their money. I only take 20% of somebody's money because, I mean, God forbid if you ever lost it, it'd be horrendous. I mean, I haven't ever. Everybody's been paid, but you know, you are a risk. So let's say they've got 500,000 and they want to invest 100 grand. I'll take 100 grand. And let's say they want something that costs £10,000 in a year's time. Well, my rules for buy to sell are 20% markup. So 20% markup after all costs is 20 grand out of 100. So they can get their 10 that they need for their objective, and I can get my 10 of my profit for my objective. So do you see what I mean? They're really saying, I've got 100 grand, I want to buy something worth 10 grand in a year's time. That's a 10% interest rate. Can I afford to give them that? I'd probably say, look, let's joint venture if they were suitable, because the risk goes on to the project, but my buy-to-sell projects are usually a 20% margin at the outset, and I'd explain all the risks. So I'm not trying to go, give me your money. It just doesn't work. I'm trying to find people who have an objective and have a time frame and have a size of pot that my projects can fund. Do you see what I mean? And that I can also get profit. And I talk about that. You know, I write these packs for other people to go and do the same thing. I think it's like page 8. What are the 3 screening questions? And if you constantly ask those 3 questions, you'll never, inverted commas, waste time if you're running a fundraising campaign on people who've out of money. Because when you say, so what's the pot you've got to achieve it with, and they say 5 grand, you're like, wow, good luck. You can't be in my fundraising campaign, but we can still be mates and have coffee and, you know, talk about property. But there's no point me even thinking you're a possible person to raise money from, because within 2.5 minutes, I found out how much money you've got. No. As if you were a complete beginner, I want you to do one at a time. Yeah. But I do want you to know what your end goal is. Yeah. We did 30 at a time because we were not beginners. And even then we had some bumps. But if you do one at a time, and in the first year you do one, refinance it or sell it, depending on what you do with it, pay the investor back, do another one, right? Year 2, you might run 2 at a time, and then you might run 3 at a time because you want to go faster, because profit is a function of money you got back in and the speed with which you get it. So I don't want you to grow too fast that you trip up, and yet I don't want you to constantly only do 1 at a time, because you can scale up relatively quickly if you start to gain experience and have enough investors to work with you and have a great building team, which you can develop reasonably quickly and develop your own experience at the same time. Don't get ahead of yourself to the point you could fail, but do appreciate that actually running property projects can be a scalable business. And the question is, if you can find discounted deals and you can find investors to fund those deals 100%, what's stopping you? Worried about recessions? Yeah, they happen. Don't let them put you off. This vid talks through how to do property in other than perfect markets.